What's the most illegal thing you have ever gotten away with? When I was 19, I worked nights at a 24-hour gas station in a sketchy part of town. The kind of place where you kept one eye on the security monitor at all times, and the other on whoever walked through the door. My shift was 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., and I'd seen everything. Drunk drivers, people trying to steal beer, couples having full-blown screaming matches in the parking lot. One Tuesday around 2 a.m., I was restocking cigarettes behind the counter when I heard the door chime. I looked up, and this guy walks in wearing a black ski mask. My stomach dropped immediately. He walks straight up to the counter, reaches into his jacket, and pulls out what I immediately recognized as a toy gun from the dollar store, literally 2 blocks down the street. He points it at me with shaking hands and says, "Empty the register, now." His voice cracked on the word now. I just stared at him. My manager had done the cash drop an hour ago like he did every night at 1 a.m. There was maybe $40 in ones and fives in there, plus some change. Barely enough to make this worth his time. But here's the thing. I'd worked retail long enough to know every cheap item in a 5-mile radius, and I specifically remembered selling that exact toy gun to someone matching his build last week for $3.99. It was this terrible plastic thing that didn't even have a realistic weight to it. I looked him dead in the eyes and said, "Dude, that's a fake gun. I sold you that exact one last week for $3.99. I remember because you paid in quarters." His eyes went wide behind the mask. You could see the panic set in. He froze completely. The gun still pointed at me, but his arm starting to lower slightly. That's when I made the dumbest decision of my entire life. My boss kept a loaded .38 special under the counter in a lockbox that wasn't actually locked because he was paranoid about not being able to get to it fast enough. I'd never touched it before, never even thought about touching it. But in that moment, with this idiot standing there with his dollar store toy, something in my brain just snapped. Maybe it was the lack of sleep. Maybe it was being broke and pissed off about making $8.50 an hour. I don't know. I reached under the counter, grabbed the actual loaded pistol, and pointed it directly at him. My hands were already shaking. "Now get on the ground, face down, right now." He dropped instantly like someone cut his strings. The fake gun clattered across the floor. He was begging me not to shoot, saying, "Please, man, please, I'm sorry," over and over. I could hear his voice cracking, almost crying. The adrenaline hit me like a truck. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely keep the gun steady. My heart was pounding in my ears. I'd never held a real gun before in my life, let alone pointed one at someone. I told him to empty his pockets and slide everything toward me. He did it immediately, his hands fumbling. Out came a beat-up wallet, $180 in cash, rubber banded together, some crumpled receipts from fast food places, and, I'm not kidding, his actual ID. This moron had brought his driver's license to rob a gas station. I looked at his ID. His name was Nate. He lived 6 blocks away. He was 22 years old. I took the $180 cash and his ID, and I told him, "This is your inconvenience fee. I'm keeping this money and your ID. If you ever come back here, if I ever see you again, I'm giving this ID and our security footage to the cops. You understand me?" He nodded so hard I thought his neck would snap. I told him to get up and run. He scrambled to his feet and sprinted out the door so fast he left one of his shoes behind, a dirty white Nike that sat in the middle of the store like evidence. After he left, I just stood there shaking for what felt like 10 minutes. I put the gun back, hid his ID under the register, and stuffed the cash in my pocket. Then I went to the bathroom and threw up. My boss came in at 6 a.m. for the shift change. He always reviewed the security cameras from the night before while drinking his coffee. I was dreading it, playing out in my head how I'd explain what happened, whether I'd get fired or arrested or both. He watched the footage in silence. I could see it playing on the little monitor, me pulling the gun, Nate on the ground, all of it. When it finished, he looked at me and said, "That never happened." Then he reached into his wallet, pulled out $200 in cash, and handed it to me. "Delete it, all of it, from every backup." I deleted everything. Every angle, every timestamp, gone. He never brought it up again. I worked there another 8 months, and we never spoke about that night once. I basically robbed a robber at gunpoint and got paid for it. Nate's ID is still in a box in my closet. I kept it just in case. He never came back.